Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. Thank you so much to all of our viewers. Thank you to all of our supporters for tuning into this briefing, allowing us to bring you behind the headlines what is happening here in Israel. I'm pleased to share that I sat down with Brigadier General Amir Avivi not too long ago and spoke to him about some of the most pertinent stuff happening this week in the war, and I'm going to share that with you right now. Due to the technical challenges we had yesterday, I wanted to make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt I could bring to you the General's briefing today. So we pre-recorded, and I will play that for you right now. He spoke about the most recent developments in the hostage deal. He interestingly analyzed the potential overlap that exists right now between Hamas and Israel's interests in this war. He also spoke about the status of the tunnels in Gaza and why it is taking the IDF the amount of time it is taking to destroy that tunnel infrastructure. And he commented on that Hezbollah video that was released last week, wherein you see some of the tunnel infrastructure that Hezbollah has. So all of that is in the briefing with the General today. Please bear with me for a moment while I pull it up. Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder and chairman of IDSF, thank you so much for joining me today.
A pleasure, Moshe.
Many people want to know about the hostage deal. Will there be a hostage deal with Hamas, and should there be a hostage deal with Hamas? What are your thoughts?
Well, before addressing that, I want to say I'm sorry we didn't have yesterday a webinar. We had a 1-hour meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which became a 2-hour meeting. Following that, he even offered me a job, which of course I didn't take. But we had a very in-depth discussion with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about Hasbara, about the day after in Gaza, many issues which we decided to really go in depth and follow up on this. So we'll have further meetings with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And this is following the meeting we had with the Minister of Defense last week. So we're really working hard with the government, with the Prime Minister to keep pushing Israel towards victory, making sure that we're doing the right things and really pushing the whole system towards a victory on all fronts. And now talking about the hostage deal, I think that when we look this morning in Israel at the newspapers and the way things are presented, I think it's the first time that there is an alignment between Israel and the US, talking about the terms of the hostage deal. And because until now, from May, from the very moment, the first moment that Israel and the US agreed on an outline for the hostage deal, at that moment, the day after President Biden talked about what was agreed upon, and Prime Minister Netanyahu immediately tweeted back that stopping the war is a non-starter. So it was really clear from the beginning that although there is a written paper, there were basic disagreements. Everybody understood the parameters differently. And now there is a clear understanding at least between Blinken and Netanyahu, which are, the understanding is very much aligned with what Netanyahu said all the time. We're not going out of Philadelphia. We're not going to let terrorists go back to the north of Gaza, only citizens. We demand maximum hostages, and once the ceasefire ends, we go back to destroying Hamas. And basically, this is agreed upon. And now, for the first time, it's really about Hamas. What will Hamas decide? Now, when we are talking about Hamas, there is a big question. What does Hamas want? My first question would be, knowing that Sinwar now is really the only leader. After Hania was targeted, Sinwar became the one and only leader of Hamas. First question is anybody actually in contact with Sinwar? I mean, aren't we talking to ourselves? I mean, who is talking to Sinwar? And it's not clear. Nobody knows if there is real contact with Sinwar or he's on the run. Not clear. Second question is, if there is contact with Sinwar, what does Sinwar want? And I think that from the very beginning, from the 7th of October, Sinwar wanted a regional war. He hoped that when he launched this devastating attack on Israel, that Hezbollah, Iran, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians in Judea and Samaria would join, and there will be a multi-front, full-scale attack on Israel. And this didn't happen. And Israel basically was able to really focus most of the forces in Gaza to destroy Hamas. And we are moving towards this, achieving this goal. So basically, we are on our way to victory in Gaza. Now, Iran is saying, if there is no deal, then we'll shoot. And the question is, if this is what Iran is saying, isn't it what Hamas wants? Does Hamas really want a deal, or they want a full-scale war? It's not clear. Now, this deal is a challenge for Hamas, because on one hand, we're closing Philadelphia. Hamas will not be able to rebuild itself. On the other hand, we are saying we are willing to move the citizens back north, but without terrorists. And we are going to monitor that. Now, when we do that, we basically create a reality that in the center of, in the south of Gaza, there will be only terrorists. The citizens will move. So once this ceasefire ends, this actually creates a reality where destroying the remaining terrorists will become very easy. There will be no citizens around them. And if the deal says that Israel is going back to fight, so okay, himself, Philadelphia closed, we destroyed all the industries. They're organized tactically on a certain level, but if all the citizens are living and they have no human shields, even if they have a month and a half to organize a bit with the remaining capabilities they have, still Israel will have the ability to really destroy them. And I want to think that what I understand, also Sinwar understands. So this raises a serious question whether Hamas wants a deal or not. It's not clear. Maybe the situation is so hard for them that even with all these risks, a month and a half of ceasefire is something they want. Maybe. And maybe not. We don't know. We'll probably find out in the coming days. But overall, I cannot say that I'm very optimistic about that. I can say at least that finally it's clear that Israel and the US are aligned. We all agree on the deal. And now it's not about us, it's about Hamas. And this is supposed to move the pressure on them and not the way it was till now, that the pressure is on Israel. So I think that this is an important change.
Now, General, I'm curious to know, what do you think the tipping point was that created this alignment with Secretary of State Blinken and the Israeli government? As you said, in the beginning of the war, it wasn't necessarily like that. Now it is. Is it they're seeing the true colors of Hamas finally? They're seeing a threat from Iran? Why are they aligned right now? It's a great thing they are, but the question is why?
So obviously the administration is extremely worried about the possibility of a full-scale war in the Middle East. They want stability. US is in the process of elections. Obviously a big war is not what the administration wants, and understand that the way to get some kind of stability is a ceasefire. It's a ceasefire that will calm things down, at least for a while. What will happen next, we'll see. But they are hoping that if we start a ceasefire, maybe eventually, it will be prolonged. Maybe we'll cut another deal. They will have time to try to prolong the ceasefire. So looking at it from the point of the administration, they feel this is the last chance they have to maybe stop the war, at least for a while. I'm not sure that this interest is aligned with really what Israel needs. Israel has an historic opportunity to deal both with the nuclear capabilities of Iran, to deal with them before Iran becomes nuclear, and also with Hezbollah. We cannot bring back our citizens without dealing with Hezbollah. And I don't see any international pressure that will push Hezbollah out of South Lebanon, and any mechanism that will make sure they are not coming back. So I would say that in a strange way, what is good for Hamas at this point and what is good for Israel might be pretty much the same. I mean, Hamas maybe wants a full-scale war, a multi-front war, in order to ease the pressure and get Israel to move most of the forces from Gaza to the north and to the east. And Israel, historically speaking, needs to deal with the Iranian threat and Lebanon, and we also maybe we need this. So the question is, what will prevail? Ceasefire of a month and a half or a full-scale war? And we'll see in the coming days where this is going. Because if Hamas rejects the deal and Iran, so Hezbollah says, following that, we're going to shoot, we'll probably find ourselves in a big war. So this is something we need to take in account. The other thing is that the US or Hezbollah, Iran, they're trying to connect between ceasefire in Gaza and ceasefire in Lebanon or with Iran. But Israel shouldn't connect this. Ceasefire in Gaza is one thing to get the hostages. Fighting Hezbollah is completely different thing. We have to bring back our citizens. We cannot connect the two things. I can say that when we talked to the Minister of Defense last week, he said it clearly. We shouldn't connect between Gaza and the north. Two different issues. The fact that Hezbollah will say we are doing a ceasefire doesn't mean that Israel needs to agree to that. Israel can continue attacking or even conduct a full-scale attack on Hezbollah, even if Hezbollah says we are willing to do a ceasefire. No, we are not willing to do a ceasefire when Hezbollah is in South Lebanon and our citizens cannot go back home. We need to bring back our citizens. So we have other interests, and this is a challenge to the government, because the last time there was a ceasefire in the south and Hezbollah also stopped shooting, we also stopped shooting. So I'm not sure that this is the right solution for us. We have to take it in account. We'll have to see what is the right strategy, and the right strategy is not to connect Gaza and the north together. That's not a good solution for us.
And in terms of this current deal on the table proposed by the U.S., is your sense that the U.S. is pushing something beyond that which is really best for Israel, or the terms in general are favorable for Israel and there's not immense pressure by the U.S. to give in to things that are against Israel's national security interests?
I think that the U.S. wants to simply the war to stop. And the war to stop means Israel will lose the war. It means Hamas we won't destroy Hamas. When President Biden yesterday at the Democratic Convention says, we need to stop the war, I say, no, we don't. We need to win the war, not stop the war. We'll stop when we'll win. And even then we won't stop because we'll have to continue operating in Gaza even after Hamas will fall. So there is no stopping the war. I mean, U.S. went to war in Iraq, they stayed 20 years. Went to Afghanistan, stayed 20 years. What does anybody think? That when we have to fight, we can do things faster. So maybe we don't need 20 years, but we certainly need a long time to really manage to achieve all our goals. And also we have the North. What solution does the U.S. give us to bring back our citizens? And the only solution we have is to fight, unless the U.S. is willing to bring troops to South Lebanon, bring a division, pull out Hezbollah and stay there, and create a buffer between Lebanon and Israel. And if they're not willing to do that, we need to do that. Somebody needs to do that.
Now, General, you mentioned the next stage of the war in Gaza is potentially moving the civilians back to the northern parts of Gaza and isolating Hamas. And I'm curious to know, how can Israel verify that it's just civilians being moved and it's not Hamas embedded with those civilians? What measures are in place by the IDF to make sure that really will happen properly?
So the whole idea is having checkpoints. We are controlling the whole corridor of Netzarim, and we need checkpoints. We need checkpoints to check who is going back, to make sure, one, that they don't bring terrorists back, weapons back, and also that they don't take hostages to the north. So we need to control all of this. And this is what Hamas doesn't want. They want all the terrorists and the hostages to be taken back to another place in the north, and this is not good for us. We need to make sure there are no terrorists, and also that Hamas doesn't go back to the north.
General, you have immense experience in the tunnels in Gaza, your background as a combat engineer. Many people criticize the IDF for the amount of time it's taking to destroy all of the tunnels. Can you just again explain to us how long it takes to destroy these tunnels, why it takes so long, why can't we just snap our fingers and all of these tunnels get destroyed?
Well, this infrastructure is really, really complicated. It's really immense. It's deep. It's full of booby traps. Very, very challenging and problematic. And it will take a long time to deal with it. You need a lot of explosives. It's a huge challenge. And I think that the IDF is working very professionally and doing it well. It takes time, and they're doing it very, very well.
Wonderful. And in terms of the kind of the broader focus during this war, it seems like we're still kind of narrowly looking at this war as a war in Gaza and not kind of as the regional war and Hezbollah. Do you think that's a mistake to be still focused on the south without a clear directive what should be done on the northern front?
I think so. I think that we reached the point where Israel needs to change strategy. From the beginning, we have been concentrating on attack in Gaza and defense on all other fronts. Now we reach the point where we can really contemplate changing the strategy and launching a full-scale attack on Hezbollah and possibly also Iran. And I don't know if it's in a week, a month, 2 months, but this is the moment where Israel has reached the point that we can really seriously change the strategy and deal with the North.
This past week, Hezbollah put out a propaganda video where they show their tunnels and large vehicles with missiles driving through those tunnels. And again, with your experience in tunnels, I'm curious, is that a real video? Was it all just staged? Is there anything that we learned from that video we didn't already know?
We know that Hezbollah has huge tunnels. It's not new. It's a very big challenge. I think that because they said they will retaliate, they didn't retaliate yet. They want to do something. They show that capabilities, deter us. And so this is why they launched this video. But it's not new. Things we know, we have seen, we have intelligence about that. It's not something that is supposed to be surprising to the IDF.
That was Brigadier General Amir Avivi with today's update, sharing with us what's happening in this war. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope the audio and the video came through clearly because it was pre-recorded a little bit earlier today. Thank you to everyone who has sent in questions, who sent them into the briefing today, or sending them in yesterday, the day before. It really helps us guide these briefings and speak about issues that are most relevant to everyone. With that, we will hang up for today. Thank you, of course, to everyone for joining. We will be back with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.